unmarried since her teens and looked homespun, even when dressed up. Her hair was long and mahogany-colored. It fell down the middle of her back in a thick braid. She was tall, but with a curve to her hip and breast. At 36, Ellen felt strong and healthy and young, much too young to be a grandmother. "How old do you think?" Maddie asked, eyeing the dark young man. 33? Not a day younger than 30. "Dream on. 20, insisted Ellen, just as the young man glanced over at her again. Uncomfortable, she turned to look for Scott, her husband, spotted him leaning against the paddock fence with their new son-in-law. The two men were smoking cigars and talking intently. Scott, with his easy manner and ready smile, worked hard to make sure nobody in Destin disliked him. It bothered Ellen to see him trying so hard with Randy. She heard a sudden burst of singing and turned to see Maureen standing at the beer keg with her friends, posing for snapshots with her arms around them, swaying and singing along with the three-piece band. Unavoidable, Ellen supposed, the way Maureen mirrored her own young life. The rebellion, the recklessness, the careless pregnancy, the misfit husband. But somehow across all these years the reflection seemed so warped, almost as though Maureen was knowingly orchestrating her own destruction. "I feel like she's drowning herself and there's nothing I can do to save her," Ellen whispered to her friend. "Don't you think that's a wee bit overstated?" "Maddie, I don't even know her anymore," Ellen said, sorrow almost closing her throat. "It's like I just opened my eyes and here we are." Maddie gave her a look. "You're both growing up," she said. "That's called life." "Call it what you want," Ellen said. "It's not the life I wanted. For her or me." "Ladies and gentlemen, get out your hankies," the singer announced, his amplified voice booming over the valley and echoing back off the wooded hillside. By now, Ellen's sheep had flocked to the farthest corner of the fenced-in pasture, down to the right, where the stream came out of the woods. Ellen imagined the gray coyotes, whose nightly baying she'd been hearing for weeks, slinking down the hill beyond the fences and stream, stalking them. "Because right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to get the bride and her father up here on the dance floor." Ellen turned, saw Scott stub his cigar out on the gate, set his drink on top of the cedar post, and start walking toward the canopy. Eyes sparkling, he still maintained some of his youthful charm, his tourmaline stud and black ponytail countering the fullness of his face. Everyone knew he was about to lose his hardware store, this after he'd been one of Destin's most prosperous young men only 10 years ago. But he carried himself with a staunch, countrified dignity as he searched the crowd for his daughter. When he ducked under the canopy and stepped onto the dance floor, Maureen was there waiting, dark eyes staring off dazedly as she reached for him and wrapped her arms around his neck. Daddy's little girl. "You gonna cry?" Maddie asked. Ellen folded her arms, not answering. "I just hope Randy knows how to waltz," Maddie added. Ellen looked askance at her. "Why?" Maddie patted her arm. "He's the groom, and you're the mother of the bride. You're on next," she said, moving off. "Be sweet. I'm going off to do my sultry thing." Ellen turned, spotted Randy sauntering toward the beer keg with his hands stuffed in the back pockets of his leather pants. With his matching leather vest and dark shades and his cropped ponytail, he must have imagined himself swashbuckling. Waltz? Ellen had never even had a real conversation with Randy. Not that she'd made the effort. According to Maureen, Randy had studied art at some community college in Florida, yet now he worked part-time for a sea urchin diver who was also his best man today. On the side, Randy made airbrush paintings depicting endangered animals killing humans. Building up his portfolio, Maureen had explained on the night she told Ellen and Scott she was pregnant. Really, what was there to say to Randy? "I'm so happy that my daughter has chosen you to father her children. And how cool that you wore shades to the wedding, not to mention that little nod you and Scott exchanged when he brought Maureen to the altar." Now, as Ellen watched Scott dancing with their daughter, she wondered again.